welcome. In this video, we are going to talk about how the film industry affect the economy of Indonesia. What is film industry? How it first introduced in Indonesia? How big of a role the film industry really is? The streaming platform and what move does the government take to restore the film industry? The film industry plays a big part in the economy of Indonesia. Film production companies, film studios, cinematography, animation, film production, writing, pre-production, post-production, film festivals, distribution, film directors, and other film crew personnel and actors are all part of the film industry, technological, and commercial institution. Though the expense involved in making movies almost immediately led film production to concentrate under the assistance of standing production companies, advances in affordable film-making equipment, and increased opportunities to obtain investment capital from outside the film industry have allowed independent film production to grow. The movie industry, as we know it today, originated in the early 19th century through a series of technological development. The creation of photography, the discovery of the illusion of motion by combining individual still image, and the study of human and animal locomotion. Indonesia's first introduced into the film industry in year 1900 when being colonized by the Netherlands. At that time, there was a premiere of a documentary about the journey of the Queen and King of the Netherlands in Kebon Jae, Tanah Abang. In a 2.5 decade later, films from America and China started to spread in Indonesia. In 1926, Indonesia started to produce their own film made by G. Kruger and L. Heveldorf titled Lotong Kasarong. Even if it was made by the Germans and the Netherlands, film that was produced by NV Jaya Film Company in Bandung is considered as the first Indonesia film because of the original Indonesia story. Indonesian cinema grew as the Chinese began to take over economically. At this point, it can be seen that the initial footing of the Indonesian film industry was more socio-economic than socio-cultural. According to data released by the Opus Creative Economy Outlook in 2019, the contribution of film production in Indonesia has grown up to 64%, contributing the total of 15 trillion rupiah to the country's gross domestic product or GDP. In 2014, 106 films were released and watched by 16 million people, a little over 200 theaters or around 900 screens. The number of viewers was based on ticket sales. In 2019, those numbers multiplied to 230 films, 52 million viewers, over 300 theaters, with nearly 2,000 screens. The average film produced in Indonesia is around 140 titles a year and earns around 2 trillion rupiah. But sadly, the film industry is one of the industry who got hit hardest during the pandemic. 2,117 cinema screens in 420 locations across Indonesia have been closed. The film industry has lost 90% of its revenue due to the virus and people not wanting to go to the theater. With movie theaters shutting down, people found another way to entertain themselves, one of which is digital platform. You might heard of video on demand or VOD services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Viu, and others. In your spare time, you may also subscribe to one of the streaming sites to watch their content library. In Indonesia, movie streaming platforms have only recently begun to develop, with the most notable one being the entrance of Netflix to Indonesia in 2016 and followed suit by many other streaming platform competitors that seek to offer an alternative from traditional platforms as theatrical release or TV. VOD service has shown unprecedented growth in Indonesia, with user penetration projected to hit 17.7% in 2025, increasing from the current 4.7% this year. This is also coupled with the expected increase of revenue from US $270 million in 2020 to 57 $571 million in 2025, with the projected annual growth rate of 15.7% per year. The coronavirus pandemic has also greatly increased the amount of VOD service demand and subscription in Indonesia. As most people stayed at home and prompted them to consume entertainment from their homes, the effects of VOD service have been somewhat split between the pros and cons. We can see that the emergence of VOD services has supported legal streaming services in the positive effect. The research found that 63% of online consumers in Indonesia watch content from illegal streaming sites, with more accessible and budget-friendly VOD platforms emerging. It could positively change the streaming culture of Indonesians. Another effect is that it provides quality content for its subscribers from the comfort of their homes, which is crucial in the age of pandemic in which cinema and going outside of the house is not as feasible. It also encourages families to stay at home and minimize the community spread of the virus. Many VOD platforms have given free trials and discounted rates in promoting this campaign, such as GoPlay, iFlix, and Video. Streaming services have grown big in Indonesia, as the country's VOD revenue in 2020 is mainly from streaming video on demand (SVOD) services, which accounted for 140 million US dollar. This is also bolstered by the arrival of other streaming platforms and increasing SVOD subscribers in Indonesia. However, this market is mainly dominated by Netflix as the largest streaming, with Indonesian Netflix subscribers doubling every year and projected to have more than 900,000 subscribers at the end of 2020. This can hinder the progress of local streaming platforms. Netflix's dominance in the industry can be seen as discouraging towards local streaming platforms such as GoPlay and Genflix. The Indonesian public's inclination towards choosing Netflix as their preferred streaming service has created a monopolistic market in streaming videos on demand services in the country. Another reason for the lack of growth in local streaming services can also be attributed to the government's polarizing responses towards the rise of streaming platforms in Indonesia. The Communications and Information Ministry was quite cautious at Netflix's growth and threatened to block Netflix due to the lack of Indonesian content compared to its imported content. Yet, the Education and Culture Ministry collaborated with Netflix to air some of Netflix's original documentary on TVRI as a part of its Belajar dari Rumah program. As we can see, the responsive of this issue is reactive rather than responsive. So, how can we solve this issue? If we want to further support the local creative industry, subscribing to local streaming service can help. Other steps that can be taken to boost our creative industry include increasing collaboration with Indonesian filmmakers to either create or put their works on the platform to increase the accessibility of Indonesian films to the masses, and create high quality content to help promote Indonesian film industry. Netflix can also use its platform to cater to Indonesian market and provide a platform for Indonesian filmmakers to compete with other worldwide Netflix catalog through its Netflix original content. Let's take a look at Netflix growth in pandemic. Netflix keeps growing in pandemic. with a total of 200 million subscribers, keeping ahead of no streaming rivals competing for viewers stuck in their homes during the coronavirus pandemic. COVID-19 has changed from people watching in theater into streaming platform. According to a letter to investors, the company's cash flow was so strong that it was no longer borrow money to pay for operation and is considering starting to buy back shares. Netflix shares jumped more than 12% in aftermarket trades following the release. In the fourth quarter of 2020, profits decreased to $542 million, down from $587 million in the same period last year. But overall revenue in the quarter surged 21.5% to $6.6 billion. Paid membership increased 23% in the final quarter of 2020 when compared with the same period a year earlier. However, average revenue per membership remained the same. According to the earnings report, for the full year of 2020, Netflix added a record of 37 million paid memberships. With such a big audience, Netflix wants to keep bringing good entertainment, and Netflix has invested heavily in original shows and films to make itself a must-have service in the increasingly competitive streaming market. Netflix executives said their production are back up and running in most regions after being halted by the pandemic. The list will cover every major film genre, from drama to comedy, to science fiction to horror, and even westerns, with certain films ready to compete for major awards. Some of the biggest film released in 2021 is Don't Look Up from filmmaker Adam McKay of The Big Short and Vice, and with starring Leonardo DiCaprio. The Harder They Fall, a western co-produced by JC, and with a primarily black cast including Regina King and Idris Elba. And Red Notice, an action film starring Wonder Woman star Gal Gadot, Jumanji lead Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and Deadpool actor Ryan Reynolds. With things start turning back to normal, Tourism and Creative Economy Minister Sandiaga Uno announced on 17th October 2021 that the government will take initiative to revive the Indonesian film industry through the program called Pemulihan Ekonomi Nasional atau PEN on government assistance for Indonesian film production. The program aims to assist in the restoration of the Indonesian film industry ecosystem, which has been severely impacted by the pandemic, so that filmmakers can continue to produce high-quality films. The National Economic Recovery Program on government assistance for Indonesian film production will be focusing on short films and short documentaries, considering the time constraint of the remaining effective time of 1.5 months. The government has channeled the stimulus on the PEN program for the film subsector for 114.88 billion rupiah until December 2022. The aid is projected to take 14,671 direct or creative workers. The film subsector PEN program is provided in the form of assistance for promotion, production, and pre-production for national films, one of which is the film Cadet 1947, hoping that with this sponsorship, the film Cadet 1947 could be the restoration of Indonesia's filmmaking. Many film workers lost their income and their source of income because production activities had stopped, as well as because of the implementation of PPKM, which lasted for several months, which caused the close of cinemas as the largest income source for the Indonesian film industry. With a long process, cinemas has finally started to operate back again. But of course, people still need to follow the health protocol so that watching activities in cinema continue safely and comfortably. This progress is expected to have a positive impact on the film industry because cinemas contribute about 90% of film distribution revenue sources in Indonesia. Thank you for watching. Hope this video can educate you about the importance of film industry in Indonesia. Bye-bye.